Tonight, a Northwest Airbus flies miles past its destination and doesn't respond to radio calls. The military goes on alert. What was going on in the cockpit? Will the flight recorder solve the mystery of Flight 188? I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, anger and frustration over the shortage of H1N1 vaccine. Health officials urged high-risk groups to get it, but where is it? They report and the White House decides it's not fair. The president's feud with the Fox News channel. And a war against a word.
I'm sending a message to everyone who knowingly or ignorantly uses this word to describe our people.
An 11-year-old with the American spirit.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. We're beginning tonight with the search for answers in one of the more bizarre episodes in aviation history. Why did the pilots of Northwest Airlines Flight 188 fly hundreds of miles past their destination Wednesday evening? And what was going on in the cockpit? The Airbus A320 heading from San Diego to Minneapolis-St. Paul with 149 people on board flew right past the Twin Cities and was out of contact with air traffic controllers for more than an hour. Had it been hijacked, the controllers tried the radio, instant messaging, even cell phones, but couldn't reach the crew. Wyatt Andrews picks up the story and the investigation.
The voice and flight data recorders from Northwest Flight 188 is where investigators began today, but the real probe starts this weekend when the NTSB interviews the pilots. Their focus is clear. How in the world did two experienced pilots, Timothy Cheney and Richard Cole, start in San Diego, leave the airspace over Denver, and then go silent, out of radio contact for an hour and 18 minutes, flying beyond their destination of Minneapolis by 150 miles? In the Air Traffic Control Center in Minneapolis, controllers watched with building tension, their post-9/11 training telling them to presume the worst, disabled pilots or even terrorism.
There was a very high level of anxiety when the aircraft passed over the airport. There's no doubt about that.
By then, 4 National Guard F-16s were put on standby. Air Traffic Control then asked 2 other Northwest flights to check if Flight 188 might still be on Denver's radio frequency, and they confirmed that was the problem. Flight 188, by now over Eau Claire, Wisconsin, finally dialed into Minneapolis and was turned around. But that did not end the drama. When the pilots were asked about their mistake, they said only there'd been a cockpit distraction, which to controllers sounded evasive. As the plane neared Minneapolis, controllers ordered the plane to execute 2 additional turns to confirm that the pilots were in fact controlling the aircraft.
There's a number of procedures that air traffic control have employed after 9/11 to help identify that the plane is not under the control of terrorists.
Once on the ground, the pilots told waiting FBI agents they had been in a heated discussion over airline policy and they lost situational awareness.
Their job is to fly the plane. My job's to ride the plane. Their job's to fly the plane. It's unbelievable, unbelievable.
What investigators already find tough to believe is that the pilots were simply arguing. Because they were based in Minneapolis but live in the Northwest, the probe will also focus on fatigue, where the pilots commuting to work during hours they should have been sleeping.
The issue of 2 pilots dozing off is actually plausible and does explain a lot. So it's reasonable that investigators would take a look at that possibility.
Investigators will not get much help from the cockpit voice recorder. That tape is only 30 minutes long and will not cover the time when the pilots either argued or slept as the whole expanse of Minneapolis passed beneath them. Katie?
Very strange story. Wyatt Andrews. Wyatt, thanks. Now turning to the H1N1 flu. New government figures today show it's still spreading from coast to coast much faster than the production of vaccine that is supposed to stop it. It's widespread now in all but 4 states. Since April, at least 95 children have died. To put that number in perspective, that's just over 1 in a million American kids. Still, young people are especially vulnerable to this virus, and the vaccine to protect them is in short supply. Here's CNN medical correspondent and CBS News contributor, Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
As the H1N1 vaccine continues to trickle out, at the few clinics that are open, the only thing bigger than the lines is the frustration.
I want to punch somebody. We've been here a long time, and my kids are going crazy.
But if I would have known it would have taken this long, I would have taken my kid home and actually gotten a good nap out of this whole thing.
After months of urging people in priority groups like children and pregnant women to get the vaccine, the CDC acknowledges that the vast majority of them cannot.
We're nowhere near where we thought we'd be by now. We're not near where the vaccine manufacturers predicted we would be.
16.1 million doses of H1N1 vaccine are now available. 11 million of those doses have been distributed. That's far short of the original target of 40 million by the end of October. Still, the CDC insists there will be plenty of vaccine. It just won't say when.
Given how far off some of the projections have been from what we have now, I would prefer to just take it one day at a time, 1 week at a time.
And there's another concern as well, Katie. You may have heard up to 1 in 5 children were thought to have had H1N1 already. That was according to a phone survey. CDC sort of backed off on those numbers, sort of backpedaled, saying, look, these are kids that may have had coughs, sniffles. Really hard to say that they all had H1N1. We just don't know what those numbers are.
And meanwhile, Sanjay, you know, we keep hearing how most of these cases in children are mild, but how do parents know it's a serious problem and could require urgent medical attention?
Right. I think about that all the time. You know, there's a couple of things that are important here. I think fever, while not everyone that has the infection has a fever, if you have one, it's more serious. And in children under the age of 12 weeks, a fever is considered 100.4. In older children, it's really fevers that either come and go, that can be a problem, or last longer than a couple of days. Also, Katie, one of the things that I was really struck by is that how much the lungs are affected by this particular infection. So things like kids being unable to speak while simply trying to breathe, that can be sort of an early sign that the lungs are being affected.
And is that an indication, Sanjay, of a secondary infection affecting the lungs?
That's exactly right. What happens, you get this viral infection, you get sick, but it also starts to suppress your immune system a little bit, making you a little bit more likely to get bacterial pneumonia. And that appears to be the real problem here among children, also pregnant women, as was mentioned.
All right, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thanks, Katie.
And tonight we have the latest on a teenager stricken by life-threatening complications of this flu, 15-year-old high school football player Luke Duvall. On last Sunday's 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley showed him fighting for his life at Arkansas Children's Hospital. Kelly Kobayea has our update on saving Luke.
When Luke Duvall arrived at Arkansas Children's Hospital October 7th, he was critically ill, his left lung filled with fluid. This strapping 15-year-old football player had the flu for days, then suddenly couldn't breathe.
He is panting like a dog, really fighting for his breath.
Doctors confirmed Luke had H1N1, and for reasons they don't fully understand, the virus attacked him with an intensity rarely seen in someone who was healthy.
He was really sick enough that there would be concern that if he didn't improve, that he could die from his disease.
Doctors here are seeing more cases like Luke's. 75 patients have tested positive for H1N1 at this hospital since August. 17 of them, like Luke, have ended up here at the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit. In fact, just last month, there were more H1N1 patients in this unit than were admitted all last year with the regular flu. At this hospital, 3 children have died. But for Luke, some good news today. After 16 days on a ventilator, doctors decided it was time for him to breathe on his own.
We'll plan to take him off the ventilator today.
Is he nervous, do you think?
Nervous, I think, would be the wrong word. I think excited.
In the privacy of Luke's hospital room, doctors removed the breathing tube, and 20 minutes later, he was trying to talk.
Thanks to everybody. Yeah. Thank you for everyone for praying. We can see the end of the road from here. And it's been a long time since we could see the end of the road.
Doctors say it will take weeks for Luke to build up his strength again.
So he can wear it for the game tonight while his teammates are playing.
But his dad is predicting his son will be back on the pitcher's mound come spring.
How you feeling?
Kelly Kobayea, CBS News, Little Rock, Arkansas.
Thank goodness for that. From CBSMoneyWatch.com tonight, is the housing market bouncing back? America's Realtors reported today that sales of used homes shot up nearly 9.5% last month, but prices continue to slide. They're down 8.5% from a year ago. And Anthony Mason tells us the big jump in sales was driven by first-time buyers looking to close on their homes before a tax credit expires next month.
We're about 30 days away from your closing.
In Wolcott, Connecticut, Paul Mazurek was waiting to buy his first house. Then the stimulus bill offered an $8,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers.
How important was that to you buying this house?
That was huge.
Existing home sales just had their biggest jump in 2 years because 1.2 million home buyers have filed for the tax credit, fueling business for brokers like Gene Fercadini.
It's made a difference.
It certainly has in our area. I would say 80% of our business right now is first-time home buyers because of the stimulus.
But it hasn't come without problems. The IRS has identified nearly 74,000 potentially fraudulent claims, including one filed for a 4-year-old. And the housing market is still fragile. About 1.4 million mortgages are seriously delinquent right now. Another 1.5 million are already in the foreclosure pipeline.
That's quite troubling because 3 million foreclosures in the pipeline. When you compare that number to annual home sales, currently about 5 million home sales a year, that's 60% of how much we sell each year.
That could dump more houses onto the market and further drive down prices.
It's only when the jobs market turns around that we're going to see any fundamental changes in the real estate market.
This is the master bedroom. A lot of closet space inside.
To be eligible for the tax credit, buyers like Gloria Henley have to close before December 1st.
Do you have that deadline in mind?
Oh, yes, I do. I don't want to lose that opportunity.
Realtors hope Congress will extend the tax credit that for now is holding up the housing market. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Wolcott, Connecticut.
And one more Money Watch note tonight, more bank failures. The FDIC today seized 4 banks, 3 in Florida, 1 in Georgia. That brings the number of failures this year to 103, 4 times as many as all of last year. Bank seizures so far this year have cost the FDIC $25 billion. And coming up next, right here on the CBS Evening News, the White House singles out and freezes out the Fox News channel. Is that fair? And finally tonight, there are more than 500,000 words in the English language. And if a young boy in Atlanta has his way, one of them will never be uttered again by anyone. Here's CBS News Chief National Correspondent Byron Pitts with a pint-sized example of the American spirit.
5, 4,
2 days a week, 11-year-old Jonathan McCoy is at the gym with his mother.
1.
But when this 6th grader is not working out, he's exercising another muscle of sorts, speaking truth to power.
According to the definition, an N-word will never be a lawyer, a doctor, or a teacher.
You see, McCoy is on a mission to abolish the N-word.
It is implausible that 40 years after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that we still use this word that holds no worth in our lives or our future.
In March, he gave a powerful speech about eliminating the N-word. More than 1,500 congregants at the Empowerment Temple in Baltimore heard his message.
You gave your speech, and the adults were applauding, and people were waving their hand. What did you think about that?
I think I'm getting to them. I am getting people who are ready for a change.
McCoy is not a childhood preacher, nor is he an activist in the making. But last February, when he couldn't think of anything else to talk about for a speech competition, McCoy came up with the idea to write about the N-word, and he won.
Why the N-word? Why write about that?
When it was used, we were beaten, we were put in slavery, and now people just don't even think about that. They're like, what's up, N-word?
And you think that's wrong?
Yes, I think it's wrong.
Actors, musicians...
The speech has gone viral. More than 1 million people have watched it on YouTube. More than 2,600 have signed his online petition promising never to use the N-word again. Morehouse College in Atlanta was so impressed they invited this 11-year-old to speak to their freshman class.
You've heard it. What's up, my N-word?
But he has met resistance.
I said, don't use the N-word, and some people just said, shut up.
Discourage you when people said, be quiet, leave us alone?
No, because that encourages me more to give a positive message.
Like his own version of Lift Every Voice and Sing.
It's now 2009. Leave the N-word behind. Choose words that speak purpose and not defeat.
What do you think about being a celebrity?
I think it's pretty cool, but I don't let it get out of my head.
Gifted and talented, McCoy plans on taking his message all across the country until the N-word is gone. Byron Pitts, CBS News, Atlanta.
Wow. And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Good night.